Via roll call, folks. Mary,
Did you hear that?
is Mary here?
Here I said, why don't you two switch
I don't
places?
see her.
Nope.
Paul,
Present.
Mark Koenig is not here tonight. You know that. Jack,
Yes.
Mary Ann Bassett.
Yes,
Deb, I'm gonna put a yes because I know she's in the house. I'm a yes. Josh,
Yes.
Dan,
Hello.
okay. Amy.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yep.
Stephanie
yes.
and Linda Holt, are you on? You are, I see you.
Yes, I'm here.
And Krista Silva.
Yep.
I saw your name. Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Okay, everybody's here. First item on the agenda. Oh, never mind. Let me read the governor's notice here first.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay, good evening. This open meeting of the Senior Center Committee is being conducted remotely only this evening. Speakers on the agenda will also be participating remotely, and the chair may allow the public to provide comments after the agenda is completed. If a member of the public wishes to speak, please raise your hand on your computer, and when called upon, please state your name for the meeting minutes. The Senior Center Committee would welcome public comments, and if there is further action that is required by the committee, the clerk will add the matter as appropriate to the forthcoming agenda. Depending upon the comment, the committee may, if they are able within the confines of the open meeting law, respond with the information as opposed to needing to deliberate on the matter.
Watch.
Please note that while an option for remote attendance
Brings
and
me to a challenge. I know who this is.
somebody's gotta mute
Sorry.
themselves. Please note that while an option for the remote attendance and or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast that is to individual attendees unless otherwise required by law. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, so please take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Okay, we made it through that. Now, meeting minutes. Did everybody get a copy of their meeting minutes from the meeting of September 19th? I believe everybody probably got a couple of copies. Does
Yep.
anybody have any heartburn or any issues that are outstanding that we need to edit? I think they look pretty good. I really do. All right, so again, by roll call, approval of the meeting minutes. Mary, not here. Paul,
Yes.
Mark is not here, sorry. Jack. Jack, you approve?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Mary Ann Bassett,
I wasn't there last time, so I'm gonna recuse.
okay, yep. Got you.
Yes.
Deb, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a yes. Josh, you,
I don't think I was at that one,
You
so I
were
think I'll
not.
recuse myself on that.
yep, you were not. Dan,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes,
I think so, okay. Stephanie,
I need to abstain. I
you-
was not there either.
yeah, you were missing also. Linda, I think you were, I don't remember.
Not a vote.
And
I
she's
think I
not a
was
voting
there, but
member.
I'm not a voting member.
Yep, yeah, you're right, you're right. And Krista Silva, you were, I forget if you were there or not.
I don't get a vote.
You don't get a vote. Wow.
But he was there.
But he was there, all right. I should have looked at the attendance list. All right, no further ado, get to the agenda. So working group reports, again, this week, as we did at the last meeting, we're gonna discuss not going through all the slides that were presented at the select board meeting, but we want to take a few minutes and discuss basically a recap and a discussion of the presentation that was made. And by the way, Jack did a superb job in presenting that. superb job.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
Yes, he did.
I've heard nothing but good things. But I am going to ask tonight of this committee. I've heard a lot of good things. What kinds of comments have people heard? And again, the reason I'm asking that is, we're all on this same committee and we're going to think things look pretty good because we put it together, we endorsed it, we voted on it. But there may be other people in town who don't agree or have a point here or there that they maybe took issue with. Has everybody's feedback that anybody has heard from been good? Any questions that come up that the people have not been able to answer to somebody else in the public? I'm open to any questions or any comments.
Gary, this is Deb.
Yes. Go ahead, Deb.
Everything that I've heard has been very positive. There were people that came up to me afterwards and said, I learned so much more tonight listening to the presentation and understand what you're looking for. So
Excellent.
I didn't hear any questions other than when we were talking with the select board. I think it was Mike Stevens mentioned something about knowing what else happens up at the senior center besides activities and fitness classes.
Mhm.
So he was leading to the event of, how the other services that we offer, which, includes the Shine and health and wellness types things. And so Amy and I spoke on that today, and Mary Ann Shields has made a poster to go to Maynard Fest this week. So I took some of the ideas off of there and made a lineup of all the services that we offer that are ones that people don't really realize, fuel assistance and housing assistance and mental health. So that might be something that we add in the future.
Yeah, you're right, because those aren't the things we generally think of. We're thinking of enough
Mhm.
space for exercise and, a Zumba class and things of that nature. We're not,
Mhm.
you're right. Fuel assistance. Well, how does that happen? You're right.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that do go on that are under the radar. We don't see them. So that was
Yeah, I think I had probably a list of 10 or more
excellent.
that I'll send out to everybody.
Excellent. That's good. So that was a question, good question. Certainly well worth asking, and thank you very much for getting with Amy and whoever else you collaborated with to get the list put together. Thank you. Any other questions or issues anybody has heard about? I'm not hearing too many screaming.
Gary,
Yeah, go ahead.
I heard what Deb just said, and I took it a little bit more broadly. And I got copied on the traffic that Deb, working with Amy and so forth, Mary Ann has done that handout that was referred to. My suggestion is whether it's Mary Ann's thing as constituted or whatever Deb has done should in fact be made part of the senior center report. In other words,
Mhm.
Josh had put many, many pages together, but I would suggest we add this to that. And I actually took it a little bit more broadly in the sense of what does a senior center do? How does it operate? So I'm pushing a little bit for more than just, well, we have these kind of programs. I don't know what exactly that means, but I think it's an opportunity to educate folks on what it does, how we do it. And the second thing, which got triggered for me because of that, and I've sent an email to a couple of people, but I'll share it with the committee, is understanding, because the second part of what Mike said, he jumped into some math relative to how much we are spending per senior and so forth. I don't think most of the folks in town have an understanding of where does the COA money come from, how is it spent, and Amy has limited so much per senior that comes from the state. We have a line item in the town budget. There's fees which come from the van services and the signups for classes and so forth. So there's a revenue stream there. I think it would be a useful thing. And again, as an example or whatever, I would suggest putting it in the senior center report that says, in effect, I'm saying, show us a pro forma budget, income, expenses for a year, just so people have an understanding of what it is that the COA gets in the way of money, and frankly, at the end of it, how little it is in terms of the town's overall budget, so that they get a sense of what the COA does on a very limited budget. And as I said, I don't think people in town really understand that, and laying it out for them, I think, would be a useful thing to do.
Well, I'll comment on that, Jack. I agree 100%. I think that when people in town see how little money is spent, however it's spent, and then they see the number of programs, the fuel assistance, things like that people don't normally hear about. When you put all that together, it's not much money for a lot happening. I think it's my opinion for what I'm aware of. I was going to ask a question now. You're going to love this one because I love working groups. Should one of the working groups pick this task of putting together the list of programs and with a small description, fuel assistance, what does that mean? Mental health, what does that mean? I don't know, and maybe that's already there. I see two hands up already. Josh, you had yours up first. Go for it.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It is a common one that we were faced with in Newton early on too. And it's kind of demystifying senior centers. Like, what are they? What do they do? I don't think it's necessarily as much. What are the programs offered? I mean, to some extent, it's that, but it's more like, what's a day in the life of the senior center like? What actually happens there? And I think one of the challenges that we'll have to overcome in Maynard is I don't think we can really show day in the life of a senior center because the current facility is so limited. We might, however, be able to reach out to one of our neighboring communities to work and possibly do like a video tour to help show people this is what a senior center should be. It's not what we have, but it's what we aspire to be. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, good point. Good point. Excellent. Thank you, Josh. Amy had hers up next. Unmute. There you go.
I'm unmuted. I think there's no reason why you can't do a tour a day in the life of a senior center and use the Maynard Senior Center. That's what the community is aware of. That shows its limitations. It also shows what we're doing with the limited space. It's often incredibly full of energy and activity, and showing the community. I mean, certainly you can reference. You're going to do a great report on all the other visits that you did. I think that was my understanding, that the working group that did the visits was going to do a full, wonderful PowerPoint. And I think that sort of represents to the community what other options do look like. But there's no reason why, you can't film our own senior center with people that people see. So someone's going to see Eileen Palmacci, and someone's going to see Marianne Bassett. And that's really significant. We don't have to go elsewhere. And the limitations are important for the community to see. That can be absolutely part of it. So that doesn't have to be, just seeing the good, the ugly, the difficult of our senior center, but what we're doing within that senior center, what we've done for 10 years. I'd be more than happy to work with Pat to provide a supplement of all the social services that we provide that can be added to Deb's wonderful FAQ. I was just rifling through the FAQ quite quickly, and that hasn't been fleshed out, the social service piece. So Pat and I can definitely do that. And I also looked through Deb's FAQ, and there's just the budget, simply says the COA municipal budget, and then it says the formula grant budget, the dollar amounts. But I can also just give a rough sense of what those two pots of money are used for. I don't think you need to specific line by line, you know, what every dollar is spent on, but I think it would be helpful to just show that, you know, that COA budget of whatever 180,000, this is the salaries, and then the expense, this is what the expense piece, which is only like 30,000, what that covers. And the same thing with the formula grant. We can put a little teaser in there, flesh that out too, so that it's currently $15 per season, senior, based on the 2020 census. So I think those two things that Deb's already started in the FAQ can be fleshed out, and I think that will, you know, then you can take from the FAQ and put it into your report as appropriate.
Good, excellent. I like the idea. I mean, I agree with what Josh said, that we could certainly do something at another facility that has all the things we want to have. But Amy, I agree with you in doing it in the facility that we have right now. And then people can form their own opinions. They see what's going on, and they see what we're doing with, I'm going to say, a limited budget, because I don't know what the budgets of other towns are, so I can't speak to that. But I'm going to assume that we get a fair amount done with not an awful lot of money. And we're restricted in some things based upon size of our community center. Without my belaboring anything, the next one in line was Linda. You had your hand up.
Yep. I just wanted to say, I really liked this new thing that I think everyone got, the senior center and council on aging thing that came in the mail, I think this week. Did everyone get that? Sorry, it's blurring. It should have gone to everyone in the
You're out of focus,
in the
Linda.
town, right? But I really like the format here. It has a nice monthly calendar, has a whole page devoted to all the social services and transportation services. So I don't know if there's any way we can, when we talk about what we're doing, but really point to this, because every month it's going to be different.
Yeah.
What is happening. So I just thought this layout was very clear, and it can't, you know, it was always inside the action, but I really like this, and I think we should promote this because it was really,
Thank you, Linda.
really, really good.
You're my new best friend, Linda. Thank you for saying that. So that's the whole goal, is to make it clean, ads in every mailbox, you know, more promoting the social services.
Yeah, and then the
resources.
calendar, I mean, it's amazing. The calendar is something.
We've been asking for the calendar for a while.
For a long time, yeah, like, so every day there's like at least 2 or 3 things every day, you know, and such a wide variety, and you know, linking to all different services, and nice links with businesses in the community too. So I thought that was very effective, and hopefully it'll get the message to the town of what we're doing and what we could do even more of.
So maybe a bit of what we're trying to address right now is already addressed. Maybe we just need to get a small group of us together and you know, take a look at it, take a look at the budget, take a look at all the different pieces, and you know, see if we can move some of that around into a presentation also. I think it's worth looking deeper into it. Jack, you had your hand up.
Yeah, let me kind of collect several things here. I agree with Amy. The intent of my comment was not we break down every line item in the budget. It was show where the funds come from and what they go to. Amy's almost, you know, vocalized it here tonight in the sense of 80% or 90% is salaries. There's only 30,000 for programs, so forth and so on. So she's almost captured it there in terms of you know, how it works. So that works. Second point, I also agree with Amy in a sense when Josh talks about demystifying. I love that word in terms of, you know, let's demystify, let's really show what's going on in the senior center, but we should focus on what goes on in our own. And it's almost, again, the division we keep having between the interim senior center and what we might get when we get to Maycal. So at some point we might want to do 2, which says, this is what we can do with what we have, and then do another one, which says, if we had, then you can show, you know, some other senior center. So I see it as 2 separate things, with the priority being given to, this is what we have, this is what we deliver, this is what it looks like, so forth and so on.
Excellent. No, you're right. You're right. So
Josh has his hand up.
I'm sorry, didn't see it. Go ahead, Josh.
That's all right. No, real quick. I agree. And I certainly am not trying to avoid showing the current senior center. I just think, and this speaks to what Jack was referring to, you know, we need to do a few things with this. We need to help people who don't envision themselves ever using a senior center to better understand what happens in a senior center. What I think we want to make sure we're careful of, though, is that with somebody who has no experience with the senior center, has no idea what's happening there, if we go and show our senior center and say, this is all the great stuff that we do here and leave it at that, some people may leave that saying, oh, great, sounds like it's working. So I think we do need to point out not only the shortcomings, but what we're trying to achieve with the interim location, and then eventually with the longer term solution.
You're right, because somebody could walk away thinking, oh, that's good, you're all set.
That looks nice. Everybody looks happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We'll put up a couple of people sad. We'll photo a couple of sad people in the corner. Are there any other? Are there any other comments? Positive, negative, more questioning from anybody regarding the presentation the other night? I'm not seeing any hands come up or anybody screaming.
Again, Jerry,
Yep.
the folks that I have bumped into have generally been very positive. I've heard no negative comments. I've heard there's a theme that Chris actually helped steer us onto as we reviewed our slide presentation. There's the 2 or 3 comments that have come back to me is, okay, good presentation, but you did in fact show, whether you want to use the word empathy or understanding or something, of the situation the town is facing. So Chris was kind of counseling us as we went through this, either the last meeting or the meeting before. And Josh kind of encapsulated it with the last thing we put on our slides, which was key support. We're here. We want to work with you. I've had good feedback on that, saying, okay, you folks do understand what the town is going through, and we appreciate in your presentation, which you're asking for money, that you did demonstrate that empathy or maturity or whatever you want to call it. So I've had 2 or 3 people, push that back at us. So thanks to Chris and so forth for the guidance.
Good, and that's positive too. I think that's very positive that that was appreciated, because it is. We do understand. The seniors need things, but we also understand town has a lot of needs. Prioritizing things. I'm a little sensitive to time tonight, and I just want to change things up just a tiny bit for a few minutes here. And I wanted to, we can come back again, but I wanted to move to social media because Josh, I know, has some information on social media that I want people to be able to hear. But Josh has a conflict. He has another meeting to attend at 7:45. So we're at 7:26 now. So I'd like to take a few minutes, if we could, talk a little bit about social media. It has come up. I know, I think we've all thought about it. Dan brought it to my attention, I'll say 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, maybe, about social media and how will this committee handle social media? And that's a slippery slope. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight because I'll give you my quick thought. This committee is made up from various other committees and groups in town. Now, when this committee comes out with something, we try to have it go before the full committee. Then it gets sent out, whether it's mailed, it's broadcast, it's whatever, a presentation of some sort. Same thing with social media. If this committee is going to say something, the committee is going to be, full committee is going to be aware of what's being said, and they are going to have voted on it and support it. So we want to make sure that, that goes in that direction.
COA do
And
Facebook.
people can certainly voice their own opinion, but not representing per se the senior center committee. Josh, quick thing, do you have, I know you have some experience through the building committee before you even get on it. So you've got some opinions on social media, the benefits and the not so beneficial pieces, I think. Go ahead, Josh, if you've got
Okay.
any.
Yeah.
Please.
So, just a few things to think about on this one. First of all, social media, incredibly powerful tool. So it's not a question of whether we should be using it. We have to use it. There's no doubt about that. The question is always how you use it. I've worn many hats with respect to social media. I have posted on behalf of organized committees, not here in Maynard, but in my job. And I've obviously posted a lot myself, both professionally and here in Maynard. The biggest challenge when you're posting for a committee is that oftentimes it is a one-way communication stream. What I mean by that is that if the committee is going, let's say the committee said, we're going to bless this electronic flyer, we're going to post it on social media. Okay, so let's say we agreed we're going to post it on, 4 different sub pages at Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. The challenge is not the posting. We could identify somebody in the group to manage kind of getting that material posted and uploaded. The challenge is watering the garden. What I mean by that is it's dealing with the comments that come back, that come out of that post. It's that back and forth. And that's where it becomes challenging if you're speaking on behalf of the committee, because you can't have a fluid conversation if you're speaking on behalf of the committee, because you need the committee to bless the answers to the questions that were being asked. That's why what I've found over the years is that the easiest way to do this is that we may, for example, we may have a web or a Facebook page for our initiative, or we utilize a senior center focus group. We can discuss how that works, but and maybe the committee has somebody that posts information that we all approve out, but it's a one-way stream. It's just a data dump there. And then the best way I've seen is where people within the committee, and it can be outside the committee, it could be community members or other interested stakeholders, use that information flow, they grab that data, and then they themselves become an advocate for it. They post it, they answer questions based on their understanding, their experience. They can direct people to where we have posted information. And that tends to be where you're a little more successful. And that's, quite frankly, that's how I made hay with the Green Meadow project. I did a lot of that where I was grabbing information from the project team. They were dumping it out there. I grabbed it and ran with it. Did that over and over again. So that's all. I would just say buyer beware. If we're going to have the committee post material, if it probably wants to be one-way communication, or at a minimum, if we're going to have the person or persons engage in dialogue, it probably needs to be a lot of let me take that information back to the committee and I'll get back to you. So it just understanding that, I think, is important.
Jerry, can I comment, please?
Yeah.
I brought this up to Jerry because about 2 months ago, I can't now immediately grab the example, but there was a posting on one of the various Maynard friends and families, or everything Maynard, one of those Facebook pages that's kind of general for citizens of Maynard. Somebody asked a question about what's going on with the senior center, and we're the group that should answer the question, really. Although we currently don't have an active social media presence, but at least 2 of the key constituent groups that formed this committee have had a very well-established social media presence that has been very well used in the past with great success. So there was a bit of a question of, should we reinvent the wheel and try to have a mouthpiece just for the senior center committee, or would we say, let's go ahead and do our deliberations as we do and let those existing channels that have
Mhm.
hundreds or thousands of members, let them do the social media, but only in the context of what the committee has actually agreed to.
Mhm.
Otherwise, those same people who are authorized to post on Friends of Maynard Seniors or the focus group, or I think the Council on Aging or the Senior Center itself may have a Facebook account, but I've heard it's not very active. If people want to post on there without having the Senior Center voted on it, then they would have to be careful to say, I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee. I'm speaking only as an informed citizen, but I think this. Maybe that's good enough because those
Mhm.
channels already exist and they've got a lot of they have a lot of people listening to those channels already. We build a channel, we don't have any followers at the moment to
Correct.
create a new channel. So maybe it's not worth doing it, but I just thought we should step back and say, what shall we do? I'm quite happy to use just the existing channels
Mhm.
and not have a new channel for the Senior Center. But I think we all just kind of nod our heads together on this is how we're going to say it. If it isn't something that was voted on by the committee, you can't speak for the committee. Does that
Right.
flow?
Yeah, no, Dan, I think you're really right. So I'll give you an example. But Jerry, no offense, I'm going to pick on the Green Meadow project just a
Uh-oh.
bit. So in the very beginning, and this is how most communities do these projects. It's not a knock on them, but in the very beginning, a Facebook page was established for the Green Meadow School project, and updates were dumped there. And that's how you typically do it. I'm not knocking it, but there was no following. There's nobody that was paying attention to that. And that's what I mean by watering the garden. If you're not taking that and pushing that information to where people are, well, then really the only people that you're getting that information to are the people that are already aware about the project that have actively sought out that page.
Mhm.
So I think that makes a lot of sense, Dan.
And you're 100% right on how it happened with the school building committee. Exactly right. Yep,
Yeah.
I know it.
I
Unfortunately. know
agree
it.
with what Dan has said. I think if, you know, if there are places out there that are already giving information out, and the committee agrees that if we have something to say and it goes on the media that way, well, you know, there are already people out there that are paying attention to those different websites. So why reinvent the wheel and start another one?
No, I agree. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I just sort of need a little bit of education. Are there any restrictions because we are a public body of the municipality? I mean, we are an officially appointed committee, select board. Are there any municipal kind of restrictions that places on a committee such as ourselves?
I
I
don't
mean, I
have
don't
that
know.
answer.
I'm looking
I
to be
don't know.
educated.
Yep, I don't know.
I'll say a few things. I did ask that question once. And I can't remember whether it was Greg Wilson or Stephanie Dugan or even Greg Johnson. It was very early on when the committee had just been formed. And I said, what is the town policy on this? And they didn't really have one that governed this. But I would like to yield to Stephanie if Stephanie wants to speak to it, because I believe Stephanie is human resources for the town. And maybe would be the best person to take this further.
So we have one Facebook page for town hall. And we do push out things that are important every couple of days. We'll do 2 or 3, but that's mostly for town hall business. And I'm not sure how, I mean, we could always ask, but I do know that the best practices are with the social media piece itself is to direct people to the town's website where we have a page and the information and the FAQ, and they can ask their questions. And if there's a question that they ask that's not on the FAQ, Deb could certainly come to us and we go ahead and add that. Or are you adding them yourself at this point? I'm not sure. But I think that that's that's where our information is housed. Our minutes, I think, are there. We have the YouTube channel. You can watch them. So I think that's the default. Just to sort of, with social media, here's where the information is. What are they up to? Well, go visit this page. You'll find out all about it, that kind of stuff. So I think that's the best practice, if you will. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
thank you. Josh has his hand up. again.
Josh, but
Yeah, so I know of 3 laws that we gotta keep an eye on this one. And I know Stephanie knows these as well. Probably would have gone right there if we'd gone down these roads, but I'll just mention them quick. Open meeting law. So
Yep.
what we do need to make sure of is that we're not deliberating as a committee on a Facebook post. So just be careful with that. We are subject to the State Ethics Commission. I don't think we'll get ourselves into hot water there. I really don't, but
unlikely.
very unlikely. But last, and we're early on this, but we do need to be careful from an OCPF standpoint, an Office of Campaign Finance, because as soon as and if this becomes a ballot initiative, we need to be careful that we are doing exactly what Stephanie just said, which is we can direct people to the town's website, but we cannot be, as a committee, now as individuals you can, but as a committee, we cannot be putting out unsolicited information that could potentially influence a ballot question. So those are 3 that I know of. There might be some others, but those are the heavy hitters that we'll want to be careful of.
I have a follow-up question then, Josh, with regard to, oh, I'm sorry, I've lost my place. Give me a minute and I'll come right back to it.
No problem.
Any other questions or issues regarding Facebook or social media in general? I mean, I do like the idea that if people through other, and to Dan's point of utilizing the Facebook pages that are already out there, the town of Maine has got, mothers of Maynards and family and friends and, a gazillion other things, if we wanted to get some information out. Dan, you got your hand up.
Yeah, it was the question of both Stephanie and Josh referred to the act of referring individuals with questions to the town website. And I guess in context of our committee, it would mean our committee page and the frequently asked questions page that Deb Roussel and a couple other people had pioneered. Is that also in play, Josh, that we would simply direct people to the committee's own fact page to handle any information
It's
to
always,
protect against back and forth?
yeah, it's always cleanest to direct people to the town website. There's nothing wrong with directing them to a specific location on the town website. So like our page, you can give them a direct link there. You don't have to send them just to Town of Maynard. But yeah, that's always safer, especially as a committee.
I have a suggestion. One of the working groups we originally set up was the FAQ group. So I don't think we even need to modify the role that they would have played, but basically, as these things come in, it gets directed to the town website, and then the FAQ group is responsible for monitoring it, and I don't know whether come back through the committee or whatever to respond. So, I mean, I think it loosely fits, at least within what we already have. That's just a thought.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Jack. I think it does. Chris, you've got your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, as far as the social media piece goes, I kind of agree with Stephanie and others that we should just direct our information to town hall, let them post it on the town website, because once we create our own page or we start to put stuff out there that's going to allow others to comment, we're just asking for it just invites misinformation, and you can't combat that, and nor once the misinformation gets out there in the social media, it flies to all those sites that you've mentioned, Jerry, and I can't keep track of any of them in my head. I don't ever respond to anyone. I've never responded to any of those things, but it's just a series of misinformation after another. It's just, it has the potential to, you know, muddy some waters that don't mean muddying for the, you know, as you head down the road of trying to find a suitable senior center. I have problems with social media from that regard. Especially as we meet every other Tuesday night, you know, hearing about them and seeing them, it's just the misinformation out there is just, you know, could be devastating to the mission that this group is on.
So maybe the ultimate answer is we stick with the webpage that we, you know, the town website. We get the FAQ, and we get information back there. If, again, as we said in the very beginning, if individuals want to post something, comment on one of the existing social media pages, so be it. But that's it. I agree with you, Chris. I don't want to see us in a he said, she said situation. We don't want to be there. Deb, I know you've got a good answer.
You're
Deb, you're
muted,
muted.
Deb.
What I'm trying to think about is, do we start putting new questions up on the FAQ? Or do we add like, Jack's PowerPoint? Do we put that on our website, our town website?
I think we need to look at the FAQ because the FAQ was relevant a few months ago. We've made a lot of headway, and I think there's things that, you know, that we've clarified ourselves. I think maybe we need to take that presentation and some of that information now needs to go on as a question, you know, with an answer. I think the FAQ page needs to be updated with some of our latest information, i.e. from this week's presentation. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chris, you got
Go
your
ahead,
hand up.
Chris.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jack.
Well, the thought I was going to express is, we can decide to put it on the FAQ page. I'm talking about the presentation, but it
Mhm.
is now a public document and it's part of the select board agenda. So whether a pointer to the presentation is there or pull it over, I don't know, but it's already a public document and posted.
Right, and my thought on that was just taking a few of the salient points out of it and posing them as a question with an answer. That's all, just so people who may not want to go look at a presentation, but they want to go to the FAQ page and just roll through a bunch of questions and see what the answers are. I was just suggesting maybe we convert a few of those things to questions and answers. I don't know. Chris?
So is our FAQ just a completely manual process?
Yes.
The only reason I'm asking is because I've seen it where there are certain places where as you start to ask a question, it tells you off to the left or to the right or somewhere, how many people have asked that same question, and then, as opposed to other questions. And then as Deb or whoever else is charged with adding the newer, more current, which you would assume in some cases that the newer would be the more relevant, kind of goes to the top of the list, and it's the first thing somebody sees. And I don't know, maybe Steph could ask one of the two Gregs if there's something that they know that does that work for you, so that somebody's not having to do it manually. Just enter the question and the answer, then all those counting things kind of hit automatically, so you have an idea of who's asking what, and what kind of, it might not be response, but you kind of get a feel for what are the questions out there in the community that that people are interested in.
Good point. Steph?
Do you mean like a search within the document kind of thing where you can type in something and it'll take you there kind of thing? Or give you options for it? I'm not exactly sure. Because are you using a Word document, Deb?
Deb, you're muted.
I will answer for
Dan.
Deb. I actually, under Deb's direction, I actually run the document. I don't do anything unless Deb asks me to do it. But I basically control the document manually. And when updates are made, I go upload it in the manner that's prescribed in order to get it onto the Town of Maynard SCC page.
Mhm. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm not aware of anything, but we can certainly poke around. So,
Yeah, it would be not,
uh-oh,
Jerry went dark.
Jerry's frozen.
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 Mhm.
Hello, Jerry.
Okay.
Well, while he's
Uh,
frozen, I guess I can say one thing about the website with the FAQ.
Mhm.
Dan, when you were on vacation, there were a couple of things that we needed to fix on there. And so I went and talked to Greg Wilson. And he and I went through and he fixed a couple of things. And then, let's see, I think initially when you clicked on the link or the question, a document would download onto your computer instead of just open. So what he did was he fixed it so that when you clicked on a question, it just opened to the answer that way. So I'm
Oh,
not sure if
nice.
that has changed anything for you. You're muted
Uh,
now.
Yeah, no, the two things that happened while I was away, at least the one thing that I know about was simply the location of the link got moved
To the left.
from
Yep.
the body of the front page into the left-hand
Column.
bar right next to the resources link. But
Right.
other than that, the document itself, it's just a Word document. It behaves the
Mhm.
same way. And it's just my job to take whatever inputs your working group has, and I incorporate them and create an updated document with an updated
Okay.
document date. But it still opens a document. Now, what Greg may have done that I didn't know about was the background functionality of the website, where instead of causing a download on
Mhm.
the requester's computer, it simply just opened the document on the requester's computer.
That's
And
what
that
he
would have been
did.
something, the software that is available for committee people like me to use is somewhat complex, and I know very little of it. I know enough to do what I know how to do. There were things that I wanted to do, and I said, Greg, how do I do this? And he couldn't immediately figure it out, and they didn't get done, and it's okay.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, it's just- there's some serious complexities behind the scenes in that, that frankly, a committee of our situation doesn't really need to get that complicated. We
Okay,
just don't-
thank you.
We're not building a school.
did anybody hear me? I hope.
Yeah.
Oh, good, all right. Because I got knocked offline somehow. I lost everything and then it just all came back. I don't know how, I have no idea what happened.
Senior moment.
I think my computer had a senior moment, Jack.
We were
What?
yelling to you. We were saying, hello.
Oh, well, I didn't hear you because it was all frozen.
All right.
So I'm not gonna belabor the social media issues anymore, the FAQ. Maybe the FAQ group, maybe we ought to, get together, have a quick Zoom call at some point and just kind of, walk through it, give us some thoughts and report back to the next meeting. I don't know.
Jerry,
Okay.
could you or Deb remind us who is currently on? Because one of them was Liz Drury, who is no longer with us. Who is still on the FAT
So
committee?
Mark Koenig is on it now in
Yep.
place of Liz.
So now you had to ask me that question, and tonight I usually have the working group spreadsheet out. I didn't. Hold on. I
Is
don't
Josh
remember.
also on it?
Yes.
Wait, I think so, but I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Well, in the interest of time, can we just sort of, hey,
Yep.
FAQ group, would you get yourself together and come back
Yep.
with thoughts?
Yep, perfect.
Shall
We'll do
do,
that.
Jack.
We're on it. Going back now, presentation and where do we go? the other thing dealing with real estate is, and I think Jack mentioned it in the presentation the other night, about 141 Parker Street. And 141 Parker Street is certainly an interesting concept. It's probably the best location that we have potentially available to us right now. We are in a bit of a stuck situation where, you know, they're offering something. We have no money. When will we have money? How long will they extend the offer? We have not negotiated. We don't have a formal RFP at this moment, but, you know, things certainly look good. I don't know if Jack wanted to speak to that a tiny bit for a minute.
Sure. There's two pieces to what I want to speak to here, so bear with me. One is, how does the committee feel? And in fairness, we, the committee, through Jerry, Deb, and I, got the input from 141 Parker literally an hour or so before the Tuesday presentation. So most folks haven't even seen what they offered outside of what I was able to get into the presentation and then read from the emails. I haven't even, you know, seen the email, but the basics of what 141 Parker offered do show up on the slides, and in effect, it confirms that all of the costs of putting the building together, so forth and so on, are included in the rent, except for the lease rate and utilities. And let me go off in details, which I tend to do. The Mill and Main offer and the square footage price had a fixed rate of $1.75 per square foot for utilities. So you added that in and it came out to whatever the monthly rate was going to be. The 141 Parker basically said, there's your functional lease rate at $26 plus utilities. And the body of it basically says the utilities, translated as electricity, are metered. So it's not just some fixed rate. If we were to get a thing in there, we would pay whatever the meter said. So it's a metered rate rather than some flat rate. And there's a whole bunch of conditions in there in terms of they want a 15-year lease and there's escalation. We cannot engage with them because, as Jerry said, we don't have a funding source. But they clearly represent the one thing we were looking for, that said all of the upfront costs they absorb and they recover it in the lease rate. So all of the big amounts of money up front, the town doesn't have to deal with. So it's kind of the ideal situation for us because all we have to do is get a lease rate. Everybody that I have talked to and any feedback come back is, you know, that just really looks like an ideal thing. And yet task one, that we need to find a way to do as a community, as a town, certainly as a committee, is how do we go back to the 141 Parker Street people and say, we like the idea, but there'll not be money until at least town meeting. So there's no guarantee. One of the things that I have a fear about is there's no guarantee that that space will be available, you know, by the time we get to town meeting and so forth. So I was wondering if the committee itself, given limited information, would be prepared to say, of the options available to us, we, the committee, favor engaging with 141 Parker. So literally there would be a committee position that would be part of a conversation with them that says, you know, we have no money, we can't engage with you, but you are the favored person, so forth and so on. So part of it is, are we, the committee, willing to do that? Two is then packaging that as a message, so forth and so on. There is a second piece, which is, and I don't really know how to do this, but the earmark from Kate Hogan at $50,000 plus the leftover, which should be part of the town budget, and I got that wrong on my slide, by the way. If you recall slide 6 down at the bottom, possible offsets, I talked about, unused earmark at 17.5. I think the earmark actually got used, and what's left, the second 17.5 is actually the money that the school department put into the bucket, so it's in the COA line item already. But it's the 67,500 that is there, that is sort of undesignated, except I think it's in the COA bucket in some fashion, at least I hope it is. I don't know if there's a way to apply that or designate it for this that could be part of the message. I don't think you certainly can't commit it, but the fact that we might be able to have a communication with 141 Parker, excuse me, that says we're beginning to build the budget cushion that allows us to engage. So that there's kind of two separate things there. The second part of what I just said about the 67.5, I don't think can be part of the conversation, but what I'm raising here is what are the feelings of the committee in terms of becoming an advocate for 141 Parker? And a lot of issues there, but I'll toss that out.
Amy, you get your hand up. You're on mute.
Yeah, so Jack, I don't know if you got some of these emails that Greg sent to you this afternoon. Did you get the email that Greg sent? Let me see here.
Yes, I did.
Did you get the one about asking Amy Lovelace to consider proposing the COA endorse an operational budget request for FY26 that would capture the expected conservative increase to the general fund budget allocation needed to cover a move as such? Did you get that one?
I did.
Okay, good. And then, so that's something I suppose, and then my other question is, apparently, yeah, so apparently Kate Hogan, Greg spoke today, and this is what she told Greg today, that she intends that the earmark of 50,000 be broadly defined as to its potential use. She specifically mentioned the potential interim lease space of 141 Parker, so perhaps the 50K could supplement whatever the initial cost for the move may be, but you and I can talk that through, all that Jack presented. So you've got that, Jack? I'm wondering, okay, so that was between Greg and I. I'm also wondering, this is a good point, just to dovetail on what you're saying, Jack, has everyone seen that little sketch that you brought to my office that day that the company did, the 141, of what a layout would look like?
No.
I don't. No.
Okay, so that's important. So there's a lot missing when all of this goes out of the committee. So Jack came into my office with a wonderful little mock-up, a sort of a layout of what could sort of go into this 5,250 square foot space. It was really nifty. So I think in terms of us being able to endorse something, we should all take a look at that little document. That was nifty. And my board, Jack, is meeting on Tuesday. So I think, if my board could, get a look at that little layout, we can certainly, we can give that to the chair to insert that into new business for our meeting on Tuesday. But I was really impressed with what Jack brought in from this company, this little nifty layout. So I guess no one's seen it, but it's, I think you could get behind endorsing the concept. So I think you all should see that.
Yeah, we can do that. The document she's referring to, let me kind of walk through, because the real estate working group, or at least part of us, have seen it. We engaged just a simple request with 141 Parker. Do you have, I kind of went through this with the presentation the other night. Is there any space in the building? They basically came back and said, no, the building is full, but we would like to talk to you about maybe building you a new building, tearing down the old White House that's there. When we went to visit with them, they not only put that on the table, they put renovating the existing building on the table. And what you have seen in the slide in the presentation with the two orange blocks was basically what they offered, both at about 5,000 square feet. Amy and I had a conversation about what a senior center room partitioning and so forth and function would look like at 5,000 square feet. That was given to them, and they produced the sketch that she is referring to, which basically lays out the existing building reconstructed or rebuilt on the ground floor. I thought we had circulated that, but clearly I have not, so we will make sure we get that out. But it is literally configured to look like a functional senior center. And going back to what I had before, the 141 Parker people would, build all that out, and the town would pay for it as a function of lease kinds of things. And again, until funding is available, you can't go negotiate with them. As I said during the presentation, the piece of paper they finally sent us last Tuesday at 6 o'clock said, 15-year lease and yada, 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 but that's before there's any kind of negotiation. And as came out during the presentation, I think it was Lindsay that actually started it. We could, in negotiation, pay a higher lease rate and less years or whatever. But again, we can't negotiate, any of those things. But from a concept point of view, the layout that they have shown fits what Amy had kind of laid out as a need in terms of number of rooms and so forth and so on. So I will certainly take the action item of getting that sketch in everybody's hands and apologize, as I thought I had kind of done that, obviously didn't.
Jack, can I also interrupt for a second? This is
Go
Deb.
ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Not only did they give us a sketch of what they were going to do if we all get together, but it's at no cost to us. They're going to build this without charging us a build-out cost. Okay, which every other place that we were going to look at would have cost us thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So they're taking a chance with us. And I think if we just tell them, what we have, they know that we don't have any money right now, but if Greg or someone can speak with them and say, we're trying to get this on town meeting or on the budget somewhere, maybe they'd be willing. He said it was going to take him anywhere between a year to 18 months to do it anyway. At least the first time that we talked.
Yeah, and if I'm Greg, I would be very uncomfortable with that kind of conversation in the sense of evidencing any kind of commitment without lease funding, in hand, which means a town meeting kind of vote. Going back to what I was trying to see if we, the committee, we have three options in front of us. We presented those three options the other night to the town. And repackaging what I've said, are we, the committee, comfortable? And I'm perfectly okay if we say we're not, and we may want to wait. So, and I'm making the distinction, Amy, between us, the committee, and the COA. But are we, the committee, having looked at this, comfortable saying all the three options available to us, we, the committee, feel that the 141 Parker is the optimum for us, the committee. Now, the COA has to go through, as Amy just outlined, it has to go to the COA board and get their thing in terms of the COA having comfort with this in terms of getting back to Greg and saying, yep, we're okay with this. And the email that Amy referred to came out this afternoon. Amy kind of read it. I can reread it if you want, because it's really quite positive. This is from Greg. Quote, I'm interested in the prospective interim solution potentially within the 141 Parker Street property. I have asked Amy Lovelace to consider proposing that the COA endorse an operational budget request for FY26 that would capture the expected conservative increase to the general fund budget allocation needed to cover a move as such. Senior Center Committee can help inform the deliberation of the COA whether to advocate as such. And so that's my comment of a second ago is,
Mhm.
and I hope I'm being clear here, what I'm talking about, are we the COA, sorry, are we the Senior Center Committee comfortable? Because the next step is if we, the Senior Center Committee, is comfortable, then we, the committee, are basically sort of in support of going to the COA board and say, we, the committee, recommend or support you, the COA board, going forward with a message to Greg.
And,
I
and
hope-
that, yeah, and Jack, that's what you're looking for us as a committee to vote on tonight, the moving forward, knowing that the COA are the ones that are going to actually do the request and do all that. It's a matter of just informing the COA that, yeah, we are supportive of this. We think this is the best of the three options. I think that's what you're looking for tonight, right? To get approval from this committee to be supportive of this option, so that the COA can do what they need to do to move it forward. Correct?
Yeah, and as Amy pointed out, the Senior Center Committee, some numbers of us have not seen the layout yet.
Mhm.
So and that's valid, and I'll get it to you, but the point I'm really basing this on is what we showed in the presentation on Tuesday, which is the great benefit of the 141 Parker thing is there's no upfront cost. It's all
Yeah.
lease costs. And my personal things, as we, the committee, have gone through this, most of us, I certainly was, I sort of sense most of the other folks were, with the Maynard Crossing and Mill and Main, we were quite uncomfortable about going to the town and saying, oh, sure, pony up a number, $500,000, $1 million upfront for a short-term lease, and we were very uncomfortable about that. So the benefit of the 141 Parker is it really does produce a non-upfront intensive, manageable lease cost. There's still a whole bunch to be negotiated in terms of, do we want to commit for 15 years? Are we comfortable with their escalation clauses?
Mhm.
That's all to be negotiated. And that negotiation can't take place until after a town meeting vote. And if you notice what I just read from Greg, it's okay, we'll put it in the FY26 budget if the COA is okay with it, but that budget gets approved next May.
Linda, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question because I understood that we would have to go to Springtown meeting, get some money, but then we would have to issue an RFP. So I don't know, would it be advisable for us to like name a specific response to the RFI? Or do we just have to state in general that we recommend some place where we don't have a fit out cost, where the lease is longer and will cover the fit out costs? Because then when we do the RFP, anyone could come in or not come in.
I like that way of phrasing it, yes.
Yeah.
And so when we develop the RFP, we would have to, well, for one thing, 15 years is longer, way longer than we had anticipated.
Right.
And then not having anything that minimizes the build out cost, that the lease would include the build out cost when we do the RFP. Rather than saying, okay, 141 Parker, I think that's, because other people could come in or drop out.
Good point.
Yeah, valid,
Yeah.
very valid point. So, so Linda, based on what you just said, Linda, it would mean that we are recommending to the COA board I don't think I could phrase it the same way you did, Linda. The-
Well, the structure of the RFP that we go to town meeting.
Right.
That what we would recommend based on the RFI, which was for information. We go with the kind of the higher lease cost, the longer lease. And no 500,000 or whatever amount it was for the fit out.
Yep.
And
So
so
we got-
that's
yep.
what we're recommending. So it would be an impact on just the operational budget, but no wherever we were gonna get the the money for the fit out for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
I
that seems
don't-
consistent with Greg's email too, right? Without
yeah, I mean,
Without naming,
by default, 141 Parker fits, but as Linda points out, somebody else might come along. I don't believe we need to mention the lease thing. We can, but the lease time and terms are to be negotiated.
Mhm.
So you've really set the bar with
Mhm.
our recommendation and support to the COA is that an RFP, when issued, would specify, however the language gets worded, that there's no upfront cost, basically it's a lease only kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's basically what we are looking to, I'm still not sure how to make the motion on it 100%, but that's what we would like to move tonight, to have this committee, have our committee vote to support that concept, so that the COA board and COA director can move that forward as per Greg's indication. I think that's what we're looking for. Is there anybody, Amy, hold on half a second. Is there anybody here tonight on this call that would be necessarily opposed to that thought process?
No.
I think there's support across the board. Amy, go ahead.
What thought process are we thinking about right now? So are we thinking legally that the next step is an RFP? Are we
No.
asking?
No, not now. No, the next step is doing exactly what Greg said, but just take out the words 141 Parker.
Yeah,
Take out
Go ahead, Jack.
141 Parker from what? From the budget?
From
So
what-
Pardon?
okay, let me try.
I got lost in all of this. What
All right.
what is the recommendation that you are putting forward?
The recommendation is that the Senior Center Committee vote to support or move to the COA a recommendation that the COA board endorse an engagement with a potential lessor that does not require upfront costs, that it is a lease only arrangement. So that's
COA
just
vote to recommend the COA endorse an engagement with a lessor or leased arrangement. I'm writing this down, Jack. A lessor or leased arrangement that's with no what is it called? The upfront cost?
Upfront.
Upfront.
Yeah, no capital investment on the town's
Yeah,
part.
the capital investment.
Yeah.
I'm just writing this down so we get this right. Upfront cost or capital investments. Okay.
Yeah, Amy, don't write this down at the moment. I'm going back to Greg's memo.
Yeah.
So first to the group, I've asked Amy Lovelace to consider proposing the COA endorse an operational budget request for FY26 that would, and that's his line, would capture the expected increase to the general fund budget allocation needed to cover a move as such. So the phrasing might be needed to cover a move to a facility which does not require an upfront expense and only addresses lease cost or something like that. Again, for the group, the line above it in Greg's note, I'm interested in the prospective interim solution potentially within the 141 Parker Street property. Linda has correctly said, eventually, after town meeting in May approves the FY26 budget, which would have this money in it, then an RFP happens, but only then.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about, hey, we're gonna jump into an RFP. There is no money until town meeting.
Right.
Was that helpful, Amy, or did I just confuse things?
No, I think that's pretty close. I think, you know, I think that I'm guessing that we need to take a look at that. What the layout looks like, because so I mean, Paul's on this call and Marianne's on this meeting, Paul and Marianne, but we need to be able to, Paul especially, because he's a member of the committee, Paul and I need to be able to present this coherently to the rest of the board so that we can move forward. And I guess that's what the committee's asking us to do. And then on Tuesday, we have a quick discussion about this proposed property. And then the board would direct me to most likely get some numbers from Jack and just put them into ClearGov when I put the budget together, which the budget is due like November 1st. So my board is going to direct me. They're going to say, this looks nifty, and get the numbers, Amy, and stick them into the budget. Work with Greg on that. I think that's how the flow would go. Am I correct? Sort of. It's getting late. I'm kind of getting goofy, but I think that's the flow.
Yeah, I think you've captured it.
Yeah.
So Jack, so I think after this, this committee can make a vote to recommend that Paul and I go back to our board, COA board, and then Jack, you'll work with me after the COA board says yes or no. You'll work with me on getting some numbers. Since you're sort of a liaison to this company, in addition to whatever the 136 was, we can get some numbers for the what the utilities might be, similarly to what the numbers we worked out for Mill and Main Building 6 or 8. We've already talked to the select board in your presentation about that 25,000. You and I took that from one of those spreadsheets for one of the Mill and Main buildings, and then we'll be good. So Senior Center Committee, go ahead and make a recommendation for Paul and I to take some action back to the COA board.
Yeah.
Can I get a second on that motion?
Second.
Well, I don't want to try to rephrase or paraphrase it. We've gone too many times around this mulberry bush. Linda, you had your hand up. Did you take it back down again?
I did. I was just going to say, I mean, the big difference to me for Parker Street is they came in with a 15-year lease, which wasn't in the RFI. If you remember, the original RFI was a 5 to 7 year lease. So I think we should anticipate the possibility with an RFP that, you know, Maynard Crossing could come in with a 15-year lease, or Mill and Main too. So there would be potentially some competition.
But there'd also be money that would be a build out for them.
Well, but if they did a longer term lease, and if the RFP was structured such that it had to be lease,
Mhm.
you know, and 15 years, they'd have a longer time to amortize the build out costs. So I think, and that would be good if we had more options.
I think that's a risk we take.
Yeah, no, it's a risk we take by waiting, right? That the places may come in, we may find more places, we may find someone else moved in the meantime, but the time is a risk for sure.
Yeah. Dan, you get your hand up. You're muted, Dan.
Thank you. Before we vote on this motion, would someone please restate it?
Oh, I was afraid you were going to ask that. I'm not going to do it because I've messed it up 3 times already.
We can't vote without There's been so much talk, I couldn't identify a motion, so I'm sorry. We can't
could.
vote unless we know what the motion is.
I identified what Amy said.
Yeah.
Amy,
Where's
You still
closed
there?
caption?
So the recommendation of the senior center committee is for the senior center committee is recommending that the council on aging board review the submission from the 141 Parker
Mhm.
proposed build out
Space.
space, review that and direct the Council on Aging Director it's a hard motion, isn't it?
We need to vote on this. I mean, I
I
think this
know,
is a
so it's
clear
a hard
path
one.
forward.
You want the Council on Aging Board to review this and
Maybe we don't need a vote.
Endorse.
yeah, it's a hard
Yeah.
one. I can't come up with it. I told you it's getting late.
Does anyone on the committee have any objection to this general idea?
No. Not
No.
me.
I
Yeah.
think we're good.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm good with that. I don't know that we need a vote. I like to have a vote for things like this, but
I mean, Paul and I understand that
Yeah,
we're gonna
I got it.
take it back and we're gonna present it to our board. And then if the board, authorizes me to work with Jack to, prepare some numbers to put into my budget. And then we
Yeah.
go from there and all the information will be shared, not just with the Council on Aging Board, but with the Senior Center Committee.
Yeah,
And
I think-
All right, Jerry,
go ahead, Jack.
I like where we are in the sense of, that there's sentiment rather than a vote and so forth. And if you as chair are comfortable, I will forward the email we got from 141 Parker to the
Mhm.
entire committee.
Yep.
That lays out, and it'll give you some of the information, Amy, that you've heard, but look at, because that email included their terms, included their offer, and attached to it is the sketch we've been talking about.
Good. Yeah.
So everybody on the committee will see it. And then I will be at your COA board meeting on Tuesday or whenever to, help structure kind of things. And the sentiment that we've expressed is we want to go forward with, we recommend to the COA board that they in turn tell you, Amy, or whatever, go engage with Greg to,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to propose motion here, that a more generalized, non-141 Parker Street specific thing
Mm.
that limits what you engage Greg to do to only no upfront cost kinds of things. So again, I'm just restating some of the things. So the key point is I will forward that to everybody. It's technically a response to an RFI. I don't think there's any particular sensitivity about the information, but I don't know that I would spread it all over hell and God.
Yep, I think we're good. I think there's consensus that that this is the right move forward at this moment.
Yep.
Maybe we'll see something better. Who knows? So you good with that, Dan? I think you are, because there was no vote.
Yep.
So there's no motion. Makes the minutes easier. I don't want to extend this meeting any longer than we absolutely have to. I think we're done talking about that piece. I think that was good. I think we covered social media fairly well. I think the FAQ committee's working group, we might get together, we may chit chat a little bit and figure out how we can do the FAQs a little better or a little more modern. I will follow up with the members of that committee and establish a time we can get together. The other thing that I wanted to mention here tonight, this is on the agenda under new business, presentations of UMass Boston's Aging in Maynard. Presentation will be made on 10/15 and on 10/22. I think 10/15's select
Select
board,
board.
I think, and 10:22 is at the library. In the afternoon, I believe. I didn't make note of that.
3 to 5.
3 to 5. Okay, so that might be easier for some people who aren't working to get to that. But I was just going to encourage people to attend if you can. Certainly listen, read documentation, because we want to see where that study has gone versus where we think things are. Is there anything different, drastically different, a little bit? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But I think a lot of people in town might be awaiting the arrival of that versus what we've put forward and say, oh, good, there's a match. I see it fits. Then this is the right direction. So I feel good about it. But I just want to mention the dates. If people, in fact, have the time to go to either or Zoom in on the select board meeting that night anyway. I don't have anything else. Is there anything else anybody in the committee has? Go ahead, Jack.
I guess this is a question for Amy. Is there value in us, the committee, coming to the senior center or wherever and walking through our presentation for the benefit of seniors? I'm perfectly willing to do it, and just as the school committee came and so forth and so on, so that any seniors that are really interested in where we are would have a chance to see and
Interesting
discuss.
idea, Jack. Yeah, that's an interesting. Why don't we talk about that offline in terms of maybe somehow especially, I think that would be a great idea, Jack, because after Caitlin Coyle's done the presentation and the studies come out, I think it would be a great time to also have, all the work that this committee's done come to the forefront as well, because I think there's going to be a buzz. And I definitely think we need to make sure that, because not everyone in Maynard listened to your presentation on Tuesday, Jack. So I think it's important. It's equally important to get that information out. And so I think we should, whether it's at the senior center or elsewhere, definitely get that out. So we should talk more about that, how to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'd be good. And I think one of the key things you just said too, Amy, was elsewhere. I think for something like this, and you wanted to get a bunch of seniors, I think, no offense to the senior center, but I think maybe, even the big room, the town hall downstairs, or, something like that, can hold a number of people and has got good video and audio and you could even do it as a Zoom too and have other people Zoom in that same time.
There's no reason. That's absolutely true. It's a good idea.
And free coffee to keep us awake.
Oh,
Really?
I like that.
Yeah.
Paul, you're getting your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the Friends of Maynard Seniors and the COA will be sharing a table at Maynard Fest on Saturday.
Yep.
So
Okay.
there'll be information, lots of information being handed out. And I think Peg is going to work the crowd.
Do you think she knows how to do that?
I think so.
Well-skilled, yeah.
Yep.
So that's going to be interesting at Maynard Fest, and then our next meeting is the 17th.
17th.
So we're the 17th. So I think there's going to be some interesting things to discuss on the 17th. One, Maynard Fest. How was it? Any good question? Any interesting facts come in? Do we find something out new that we were unaware of?
Yeah.
And the other is the presentation will have been made by UMass to the select board on the 15th. So I think we'll have some things to discuss on our next meeting, the 17th. And our next meeting on the 17th, if I am correct, I believe is a hybrid meeting. I think we were September 5th was hybrid. 19th was it the 19th? Yeah, was Zoom. This one is Zoom. And then I think the 17th is hybrid. Unless somebody has a record differently, but I believe that's what it is. So if there are no other issues amongst the committee members, are there any non-committee members on this call tonight that have any burning issues or questions without belaboring previously stated issues? Because it's now 8:30, so we've been just over an hour and a half. Mary Ann, I think you just unmuted. Mary Ann Shields?
I did.
Yes.
And I am going to repeat something that I have said before. I
Okay,
am so pleased that so many of you have such dedication to this task. And on behalf of anybody I'm legally allowed to say it for, thank you so much for having moved so quickly to get this far toward what we need. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much for that compliment. And I'm sure you definitely want to compliment the present clerk of the committee, right, Dan? Anyway, I'll stay off of that. No offense, Paul, didn't want to eliminate you, but I thought Mary Ann might have a more personal recommendation. I guess if there is no other new business at this moment, I would entertain a motion to adjourn if somebody would so desire.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:34.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, who seconded that?
Steph.
Okay, thanks, Steph. By a roll call, let's see, who we got. Mary is not here. Paul?
Yes.
Mark's not here. Jack?
Yes.
Mary Ann Bassett?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Josh is already gone. Dan?
Yes, and I need to ask who seconded this motion? I didn't get it down.
Stephanie?
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie did, yep. Amy?
Absolutely, yes.
I thought so. You
Yeah.
indicated it was getting late.
Oh.
Stephanie? I assume
Yes,
you
sir.
want- That's what I thought. Good. And Linda, I assume you do, even though you're a non-voting member? Yeah, I thought so. And Krista Silva, you probably want to end up too, huh?
It's okay by me.
All right,
Mhm.
perfect.
Hmm.
Thanks, folks. We had a great meeting tonight, I think.